gets categorized properly. How many shiurim do you know? Anything that's Rav Kook is probably not in there. But anything that says Rav Kook is not in there.
Can go. There's 32 shiurim ayata. After shiur 32, it stops.
Okay, so 32 is where it stops. Okay, excellent. Go ahead.
Live in 7 minutes.
What?
Live in 7 minutes.
It's not. It's going to be less than this. I'm in the actual publish mode right now. But I have Rav Kook. It's just Rav Kook. It's not. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah? How what? I'm live function. There is definitely no cheap for me.
You're right.
Huh? So where's he?
I mean, God kosher has to be covered. Thanks for coming over.
My father told me there's only two things you gotta do in life. Close. You gotta pay taxes. Everything else.
Yeah?
That's just life.
Very insightful.
1 minute.
You have to pay taxes.
It's 7:20.
We all know what we
Yeah, I guess me too.
But Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. So, no, I wanted to do sentences.
We all know what we want.
Oh, with Scarlett Johansson.
Or after.
Yeah. Pick anybody you want.
Yeah.
Three things you gotta say. You know, I asked.
I wanted to, yeah, okay, so 6:45, 1.
Total workers. Everybody knows what that is. Everybody.
Well, I don't know if everybody knows who it is, but
Most people. Believe it or not.
I never
never ate there, but the mic on? Yeah, sure. There you go.
To thank the Parnas Hashanah, sponsoring Lilu Nishmas, Rav Gedaliv and Rav Shimon, Shon Shalom Aliyah. Okay. Rina Yeka, page Peiches. Peiches. Terem Mekor Chovshe Shel Ha'or. We've been talking for the past few weeks about the confusion that comes with the feeling, the natural feeling that a person has that he's living in a state of conflict with the Ratzon Hashem. Hashem says to do this, and you'd rather do that. Hashem says don't do this, but you feel like doing that. That pretty much is the whole problem. It's a feeling of that you're living in a milchama kivyacha with the Bari Olam, and you've been told since you were a kid, if you've been going to yeshiva your whole life, or whatever you picked up later on, that you're going to lose. In the end, you're going to lose. So that feeling that is there, that I'm living in a state of conflict with the one who created me, And all the shmooze and all the talks, all the shiurim are to convince you to surrender, just to lay down your arms and to admit that you're just not going to win. So you're either going to get it, either get beaten up here, or by some miracle, which I'll tell you is even worse. You're going to get beaten up later on. So some people figure it's just not kedai, and other people say, no, I'm going to keep on doing my best to win this war with God. But the mitzvah is that whole siyur, that whole picture is a terrible, terrible mistake. That we're not at odds with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're not in milchama with Hashem. It's just the opposite. That the only shalom, the only peace that a person can find, the only shleimus that a person can find, the only self-fulfillment and simchas achayim that a person can find is davke through that relationship, which is fostered by living a life of Torah mitzvahs. It's not the milchama. You see, especially now what's going on. It's a very, very big sugya, and I don't want to go into it right now, but you see that what's going on with young people in America, very, very strong, more than maybe in other places of the world. This whole strange parasha that's come out with young people, on the campuses and so on. I don't have to explain. Everybody knows what's been happening. It's very, very odd. The whole thing is very odd. Why would comfortable, well-to-do people who could afford Ivy League schools, why would these kids join forces with a dark terrorist organization that would laugh at them and shoot them in the heads in a second? Like, why would they join forces with it? And what's this whole rage? Where does this anger come from? It's such a deep, deep sugya. It's a teva, it's the nature of young people to fight a milchama, to be in a war, to fight with somebody, to be angry at somebody. It has a lot to do with their hormones and ideological confusion or lack of any ideology. So there's a milchama that they're waging. And they just have to have a war against somebody where they're gonna, life is good. They don't have to fight for survival anymore. Most of these kids come from comfortable homes. And their parents are enjoying the blessings of living in a democratic, wonderful place like America. And so, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do? What's there to fight for? They have to be in a constant state of conflict, in a state of war, to fight for something. But the problem is that they don't really have a cause, because their cause is just self-satisfaction. But it looks funny to, what are you gonna fight against? What kind of war are you going to have? So this feeling that is a natural feeling that human beings have of living in a state of conflict, of war. The tragedy is when a person has everything in the world to live for, because he's a mammon and she's a mammon and believes in Kadosh Baruch Hu, and believes in the 13 Ikari HaEmunah, and you somehow feel that you're in this conflict with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and from the time they were little kids, again, if you went to yeshiva, if not, you heard later on, there's this the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara, and the good part of you and the bad part of you, and this terrible, terrible life of conflict and of war. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind when he gave us the Torah Had Sinai. That's not what he wants. Of course, there's Bechira. Bechira means that you're living in a world that's a world of concealment, of hestapanim, of halama, and you have to make choices. And wherever there's a choice, there is a feeling of conflict when you make a choice. But that Jews who have already made the choice, or whose parents have made the choice to be observant Jews, and feel that their entire life is at odds with the Yiddishkeit that they were taught, with the Torah that was given in Har Sinai, comes from a terrible, terrible mistake in understanding what Yiddishkeit is, understanding what the Torah is about. And from the beginning, there was an Indian of Kof Alem HaKegiyas, that the Torah, this feeling that the Torah was forced upon us, and it was held. The mountain was held over our heads. But the Pneumius is what we've been learning this past kufa. The Pneumius is, of course, that it's just the opposite. The Torah is the source of man's chayfish, of being free, of being a ben chayr, and being able to experience a life that's filled with meaning, a life that's filled with simchas v'chaim. If these kids would have some reason to live, if they'd have something important in their lives, instead of vaping and indulging in their taivas, if they would have something to live for, something. But with the loss of God, the loss of religion, with the loss of emunah, their emunahs, whatever they were, but with the loss of emunah, the loss of people having to go to work hard when they're 16, 17 years old, with all of that gone, so there's a lot of time on their hands. They have a lot of time on their hands, and they have to be at war with something or somebody. And the Jews are always, of course, the likely choice to carry out that milcham. That's just for a million reasons that we all know. But the Jews are we always win the contest to who are you going to wage your war against. We just shake our heads and say, like, why? Because we were killed on October 7th, so now you hate us more. And everybody's just trying to figure this out. It's been months and months of trying to understand, why do you hate us more? Because you killed us. So now you hate us more. Why the hatred? It's the Muhammad. A feeling of the Jews are creating a certain conflict. And the Jews have created a conflict. And this is, I mentioned this to you many times over the years, that there was a Jew who was far, far, far from Yiddishkeit, by the name of Sigmund Freud, and he came from a family. His wife came from a very from family, and I mean his parents weren't from, but he came from a chashuva family, and he spoke very often about the Christianity's hatred of Jews. And he said, because they hate us, I've mentioned this many times, that the cause of that hatred is because we gave birth to Yashka, to Jesus. That's why they hate us so much. They hate us because of Jesus, because of Isaiah. What does that mean? But that's the one they put him up in every hotel, and in every hospital they put him up, and not just for the night, they put him up on the wall, and my father refused to go into a hospital room. They had a thing like that. He said, "I'll stay in the hallway. I'm not going into the room." And there was a whole Indian to take it down and had to get rishus. It was a whole big thing. So, why is it that they what did they hate? Because we get Yashka. They love Yashka. The whole thing is about Yashka. So Freud was right. I think it's 100%. Freud said that they were so happy being pagans. It's just like being a pagan is a great thing. You don't owe anything to anybody. You don't have to feel bad about anything. You don't have to pay dues to the church. You don't have to feel guilty. You just have a good time. You just enjoy yourself. There's nothing to think about. Just be happy. Just enjoy life. So the problem is that Yashka is a Yid, and that the Jews brought this guy to the world, and now they have this whole thing that they can't be happy anymore. They have to feel guilty, and they don't forgive us for bringing Yashka to the world. He says the hatred of the Jews comes because we brought Jesus to the world, and as a result of that, they're at conflict. They now have a conflict. This inner conflict is what? Between good and bad. Nobody wants to have a war. It's much better to have a life that's good. But we created this milchama between good and evil. The Jews are responsible for this milchama, that you have to be good, and there's evil that you have to fight against. That's hard. So, but the truth of the matter is that if these kids would have if they would have something to live for besides their own selfish indulgences in Olam Hazeh, so then they would still pick a fight with somebody. But usually they would fight with their parents. You have a fight with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend. You don't have to start wearing kafiyas and going out into the street and making the whole tumult and so on. But this is what we're living in. So let's continue on Peiches. once we've already learned that all of these restrictions of the Torah, these boundaries, these gulas of the Torah, lo bo'o klal la'atzoros ha'chofesh shabbat. Hashem did not give these gulim for the purpose of taking away our freedom. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave for the purpose of taking away our freedom. Which is the reason why most people resent God, just like that, like he was saying that they resent Isaiah. Most people resent God, or they feel that they just have to pay their dues, or do something so he doesn't, kill them or do something to them in the afterlife that they can't stop believing in, because God has taken away my chofesh. God has taken away my freedom. I'm not free to do what I want anymore. I have to live with this looking over me, this God looking over me, telling me what to do. What we've been learning is that it's just the opposite. That it's through Torah and mitzvahs, through a life of emunah, that a person davka is able to be true to himself, and the only simchas achayim, and the only chofesh, the only freedom that a person is able to feel is when he's living a life that's his own life, that's true to himself, as we've been learning, when you can answer the question of hayakah. So noshuv l'tchilas d'vareinu. Ata muvan shebli ator lo rak shenachnu lo yodim es hamitzvos. The Torah is not just to inform us. The Torah is not just to tell us what we have to do. It's not just a book of stories and instructions. El shenachnu af lo yodim mi anachnu. The Torah is to give you the ability to identify yourself, to know who you are. To know who you are, and only when you're able to do that, to know who you are, and to live a life that connects you more and more to that person that you really are, then you'll feel a life of a ben chored, what it means to be free, to have to be taken out of that conflict. Therefore, the beginning of our chayris, the beginning of our liberation, of our freedom from Mitzrayim, was by the sneh. It was at the beginning of Shmais, when Moshe Rabbeinu was passing by, and the sneh, the bush was on fire. Now, where was that? Sha'isa bahar l'kim b'charev. Hashem intentionally revealed himself first to Moshe Rabbeinu, Davka, by that place, where a short time later, well, it was not short, but a relatively short time later, he was going to give the Torah. And in that place, on that day, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, that when you take the people out of Mitzrayim, this is you're going to come back to this place, and so there's a reason why Moshe Rabbeinu is dafka driving around over there, and why there's galus, Hashem brought him to that place, and why there's galus of Hashem was first in that place of the sneh, of the bush. Why did our journey begin over there? Through Moshe Rabbeinu's meeting the Shechina at the sneh, at Har Sinai. So the answer is Hashem is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, this is something very, very private and personal that's going on right now, but you need to know that where you're standing, the place that you're standing, take off your shoes, stand in this place of Kedusha, you should know that the beginning of Yetzias Mitzrayim is right now. At this moment is the beginning of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Even though there's no movement yet, Moshe Rabbeinu hasn't gone to tell the people, everything is still, nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. But the beginning, the shurish of Cheres, the whole point of what's going to take place now is to free Am Yisrael. To free Am Yisrael to be the people that they were created to be. Where does that begin? Hashem is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, it begins right over here in this place. This is where it begins. The end of the journey is Yerushalayim. But the place where it begins over here. It begins by this mountain, by Har Sinai. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu was brought to that place. That he was going, he was brought to. It didn't happen in Eilat. It happened over there. And Moshe Rabbeinu was brought to that place. Ki im ein Torah, because Hashem's Baruch is already saying that if there's not going to be any Maimed Har Sinai, if the Torah is not going to be given, im ein Torah, then ein havana mahi hatzmis. That without Torah there can't be any chayres. We've seen that over and over in history. That just by freeing people, just by letting them loose, doesn't mean that their lives are going to improve. We see that much misery has been brought to the world, to even the people themselves who were freed, when they were just freed with no purpose, with no tachlis. Of course, everybody should be free. Nobody should be enslaved to anybody. But you need to have a tachlis. Because being free, just being let out of your cell, or being freed doesn't mean that now you're going to be able to be a ben chayr, to be somebody who's free. Because chayrus is much deeper than the place where you live, like we spoke about many times. There are people who are inside of cells, and they're much freer than the people who are free to go right anywhere they want. It's not about movement. It's about movement outside, it's about the movement inside. And therefore, Hashem first brought Moshe Rabbeinu to this place. This is the place. From this place is going to come forth. That's the next shlav where we're going to. The Hemshech, from Har Sinai to Yerushalayim. But from this place is Miyamina Eish Das Lamai. From this place of Har Sinai, this is where Chayrus comes from. You cannot have Chayrus without Har Sinai. There's a whole machlokes now, because I think in Louisiana, I'm not sure, in the south somewhere, but I think in Louisiana, the government there in Louisiana is trying to pass a law to have the Ten Commandments put. Is that right in Louisiana? I think it passed already.
Put it on
On a poster in the school.
Already suing.
Huh?
The Civil Liberties is already suing them.
Yeah, of course. But the
And it's a Jew.
well, the civil liberties, the whole thing is from Jews. So they're putting it on. They're putting it on the walls in the school. The Lubavitch Rebbe School wanted very, very much, and he fought very hard that they should say Pledge of. When we were kids, in every school, first of all in yeshiva, we said in every class in school, I pledge allegiance to the flag, and in every public school they said, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And that of course became also because God is mentioned. So there's this whole machlokes now. Where you're saying it was already passed, they're already doing it in Louisiana, okay. But I guess they're fighting against it. The civil liberty, they're fighting against it. That you shouldn't be able to have the Ten Commandments.
No, they call it first of all on the news. They call it Christian. The Ten Commandments.
It's Christian, the Ten Commandments.
That's what they say.
Okay, it's interesting. So they're trying to make it more universal. Obviously, the ones who are in favor want to make it into something which is universal. The problem is that it does mention God, because the problem they have with the Ten Commandments is that it starts off on the wrong foot. So the rest of the stuff, maybe don't kill. We could try to work with that. Don't steal. Maybe adultery. We'll forget about that one. And, so there are a couple of them. They can work with, but it begins with "I am God," so that's a problem. It's a serious problem. And so they have to finagle around with the Constitution. When the problem is that all the people who wrote the Constitution were from people, so they have to finagle around all of this. But it's not just that. It's I give a lot of credit to the people over there, because they see what's going on in the country, and they're trying to give the kids a chance to have a sense of purpose and meaning, at least Aseres Adibrus, to give them, which was always by the Goyim also, not by the pagans, but by the Christians, by the Muslims. They also believe in that. So give a shaykhus to something in life where there could be some absolute value, some absolute truth of an idealistic life as opposed to just you, just being a selfish animal. Give something to the kids. And the animals are fighting against this. They feel conflicted by the word God. They can't say, I am the Lord your God. So and they don't know what to do because you can't change that. That looks silly. If you walked in and said, I'm Elvis Presley or something. So what are you going to do? That's for the South. So what are you going to do? So it says, I am God. That's what it says, and that's the difference. And so that's no good. You can't have God. Because then God's going to make me feel bad about stuff. And I don't want to feel bad. I want to do what I like to do. Because I want to be free. I want to be free. I want to be out of Egypt. But then you say, but it says that I am God who took you out of Egypt. No, he never took me out of Egypt. I want to be free to do what I want. So this is the war now. So there are people who are fighting a war against their self-centeredness. Imagine a person takes the time to fight a war against having a poster of the Ten Commandments. That's like, what do you do during the day? I fight against the Ten Commandments. What kind of job is that? It's crazy, isn't it? That's what you do? Yeah, I also have a law office, but I'm busy. I'm mostly fighting against the Ten Commandments. I fight against God. That's what I do. And they tried. They tried to make atheism into some sort of a religion. That's a problem. It's a problem to make atheism into religion. It doesn't go so good. So, because how do you have a religion without an ultimate, absolute truth? You can't. So they're again. So that's the Muhammad. So they're fighting a war against the Ten Commandments. This is your cause against the Ten Commandments. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Come over here. You see this place? Yeah, we're in the middle of nowhere. Now this place is where I'm going to give Am Yisrael. I'm going to give Am Yisrael the Torah, and only through that Torah are they going to be free. Not by just taking them away from Mitzrayim, not by just opening up the jail. By getting out of jail, that doesn't make you free. This is the place where freedom begins. This is where it begins. Because without the Torah, you don't know yourself. There's no connection to the Atzmius. You cannot be connected to your Atzmius without the Torah. You can't be connected to who you are without Torah. Remain Atzmius, and if there's no Atzmius, Ein Efsharos Lotzes Lecheres. If there's no Atzmius, then you can't be free. Ask any person in the world who's sitting in some job for the last 50 years that he hates. He really wanted to play like the tuba in the orchestra or something, and instead he's sitting in some miserable office for the last 50 years, filling out papers. Ask him how free he feels. But then he'll say, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. I says, what do you mean? No one's telling you what to do. You do whatever you want. You're a free person. You go wherever you like. No, I have this miserable job. I really wanted to play the tuba. And I'm sitting over here in this office filling out papers. I hate this, I hate this. I mean, why should the people here, they locked you in somewhere? You can leave. You can say, I quit, and you go. The Torah says he needs a parnasa, and he never followed up on the instruments, on the music, and so he's stuck in this place over here. How am I going to make a parnasa sitting in a band? So he's stuck doing something he hates doing. So he feels free. Even though it could be that he's sitting in an office where he's making a lot of money. And he's doing very well. And he has the big house, and he's got the 2 cars in the garage. He's doing well. But he feels miserable because he really, really, really wanted to do something else. And because I couldn't make a parnassa doing that, so now my parents stuck me into some school, and I went to school, and I got this degree, and I got this job in this office, and I'm doing this stuff which I hate for my whole life. I hate my whole life is worthless. Because I'm far from my Atzmis. Goes to my Atzmis. To play music is my Atzmis, of course. That's his hasaga, what Atzmis means, to play in a band. But that's his Atzmis. And he feels he's far from his Atzmis. He never followed up on his Atzmis. And in addition to that, he married a girl he didn't want to marry. And the kid's not the kind of kids he wants to have. So even though the guy seems to be doing well, he's not happy. He has nothing of himself. If a man asks me, is Enef Shos Lotzes the Chayres. That means he's in Mitzrayim. You're in Mitzrayim. Now, but the order is interesting. So you would think that maybe there should have first been a big Maimed HaSinai. Like right outside Mitzrayim, there should have been a big Maimed HaSinai. Or even in Mitzrayim, Hashem could do anything. And there should have been a big Har Sinai, it should have been a whole big thing of Anochi Shem Lekecha over there in Mitzrayim. But the order is that Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu like a private showing, a preview, right? This is the place. We're gonna come back here. But this is the place. But first he took them out of Mitzrayim. And then, first is Pesach, and then is Shavuos. And it's like that every year. That's the order. First, Hashem frees us, and then He gives us. Then He takes us back to that place we had with Moshe Rabbeinu a private thing. The Torah was given after Yetzias Mitzrayim. However, the igniting of that rotzen of Chayres, the presence of Chayres, the possibility of Chayres, began by Har Sinai. Torah. And the Jew has to know that's always where it begins. Your being free never ever depends upon the circumstances of your life. It never depends whether you're locked in a room or you're outside a room. Of course, being physically free, but be'etzem, being a free person, never ever depends upon where you are. So Hashem says, I'm going to first take you out of this place. And we see even after we got the Torah, there were still cracks and complaining. Parshas Balos, it's all about complaining, all kinds of tinies. Because it's a long process till the Torah sinks in. But just being taken out of the place that you come from doesn't mean that everything is Gevaldik. But Hashem made it in such a way that first we're going to go out, then there are going to be 49 days of Birurim, of Avodah, to come to be on that derech of searching for oneself, which is what Sfiras Arma is, of trying to find oneself, and then the simcha of being able to come to Har Sinai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. These are two shlavim, these are two stages. Hashlav hanistar ha'atzmi, there's a hidden shlav, a hidden stage. When Hashem appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't just to Moshe Rabbeinu. At a deeper level, Hashem appeared to each one of us. Each one of us carries Moshe Rabbeinu within us. And Hashem appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu, and in doing so, Hashem Yisbarach lit a certain candle deep inside of a Jew. That there's a purpose in life. There's something much bigger than working, on a pyramid or something. There's something much bigger. And that's shlav hanistar ha'atzmi. There's that hidden inner shlav ha'atzmi of the beginning of self-awareness. And that self-awareness, that first feeling of self-awareness is what motivates and pushes and drives the person to bring that out in his life. So with Hashem's Hisgalus to Moshe Rabbeinu, there was Hisgalus to all Jews of some sense of there being something greater, of there being something deeper and some importance to your life, something that you should fight for, that's worth fighting for. So there's first that awareness that comes of its simon, of a thirst, of a longing. Adchifa pnimis, and that chifa pnimis, that push from inside, that sense of there being something more, that feeling of some opening of self-awareness, of maturing, and having this feeling that there's something bigger, there's something more important, and I haven't discovered myself. To first have a feeling of self. In Mitzrayim, you can't have a feeling of self. So you're just a schlepper. You see, even with all the miracles that were going on in Mitzrayim, there was resistance. And it says V'yamin ha'am, but they didn't really. And it takes time. But in Mitzrayim, we weren't. It says Shomo Moshe, Yikotzi Ruach Me'avodah Kosher. They couldn't hear what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. Yikotzi Ruach Me'avodah Kosher. They were just. When you're still in that place, you can't hear anything. All you want is your supper and a couple hours off. You don't hear anything in that place. You can't hear anything in that place. So first Hashem takes us out so we can start hearing. We can start listening. In many ways, the houses that we grew up in were pleasant Mitzrayims because we were subjugated. Again, hopefully in a loving way, but we were under the control and rule of parents and their own will. And oftentimes, the child is not able to have any sense of self while growing up in a home with parents who are not nurturing self-awareness and self-discovery, which is very common. Parents mean well, but they oftentimes just want you to obey or to imitate and not all parents are nurturing this search for the truth or self-awareness, or that the kid should try to find himself. Most parents are terrified of their kids finding themselves. The worst thing that they dread in the world is a kid comes home one day and says, "I found myself." That's what parents are dreading. All they want the kid to come home and say is, "Yes, Daddy. Yes, Mommy. Of course, Daddy. Of course, Mommy." They don't want the kid coming home and saying, "Well, I got good news for you, Mom, Dad. You'll be proud of me. I found myself." Nowadays, when the kid tells you that, that's like a whole different wardrobe already. It's very scary when the kid comes up and says, "I found myself." What do you mean you found yourself? Now I finally know who I really am. All of these years, you were suffocating me. You didn't let me find myself. So what does it mean? So it could mean, no more tefillin, no more Shabbos. It can mean, no more girl, now I'm a boy. No more boy, now I'm a girl. It can mean a million things. But the kid thinks now he found himself. So parents dread those words, "I found myself." They dread those words. There are other kinds of homes where it's a different kind of malacha with the parents. But the average, typical place is, I don't want my kid to find himself. Am I crazy? Because my kid doesn't know anything. My kid's an idiot, and if he finds himself, we're all in big trouble. He might destroy the world or something. If my kid finds himself, I'd rather not find himself at all. I just want to find a decent job. The kid says, "I want to stay in yeshiva another year because his parents say, "Why?" Because I'm finding myself. What? Your finding yourself means that I have to pay for you? Do me a favor. Go to school or go to work. Find yourself and pay for yourself finding yourself. I don't have to pay for you. I have to pay for you to find yourself? This is not crazy, no? I have to pay for you to find yourself. Nobody paid for me to find myself. That's what the parents are saying. I have to pay for you to find yourself. And now the kid's like the fourth year in Kollel or something. And the father says, "What's going on? Now you have 3 kids." He says, "I didn't find myself yet. This is a very expensive search. I'm paying for you to find yourself." The parents just want you to be normal and go to work, get a job, and keep the mitzvahs and stuff, but don't like self-discovery stuff. That's expensive. Self-discovery is very expensive. It never used to cost anything. It used to be a self-discovery was free, It was free. But now it costs a lot of money. So, and then look what's happening. Going back to the campuses. So the parents, they work so hard now, these parents, to be able to spend, I don't know what it costs to go to Harvard for a year. It must cost more than $50,000. $50,000? How much it costs a year in Harvard? So these places are Princeton or Yale, more than $50,000. So they're paying
At least $100,000.
$100,000 for a year.
Yeah, to go to that garbage.
NYU.
So the parents are paying $100,000 a year. So for the kid to get an education, so they're not going to have to pay any more money afterwards, right? Because then the kid's going to get a starting job out of Harvard. They'll get a job for $500,000. So that's the whole reason the parents work so hard to get the kid to Harvard, so the kid's going to be able to get a job for $500,000. And instead, the kid goes to Harvard and he ends up in some encampment, trying to find himself.
And then he rips up the diploma.
Yeah. No, then the kid comes home to the parents and says, "So what did you learn in Harvard?" He says, "Oh, I learned that I hate you. I hate you. What else did you learn? I learned that the West is a worthless worthless colonizing place of Rishoyim." And the parents said, I paid $100,000 a year. That's besides food and the other stuff, I guess. I paid $100,000 a year that you should hate me. The kid says, "That's right, but you should be proud of me because I found myself." This is what's going on. I mean, just putting it to Mama Loshen. That's exactly what's happening. They're finding themselves. So the kid, parents are spending every penny to help this kid because they want the kid to get a job, and the kid's finding himself. Like I told you about that, I mentioned that my father that they had this student that ended up by us by the Seder. These secular Jewish boys, very sweet guys. And I'm still in touch with one of them. So this guy came to the Seder. These two guys came to the Seder, and this was not a good. It wasn't a good thing with my parents, and it just didn't go well. The whole mix was not a good mix, and the guys were talking about their trips where they're going all over. It's like they had this gap here, or something. They went to India and to this place and to all these other places in the world. And my father just wants to say the Haggadah, And my father says, why you go around to all these strange places? So this kid actually said, I'm going to find myself. And my father looked at me. And that look is like, and then my father said to him, "You're right over here." Where are you going looking? What are you going to have to go to India to find yourself? You're right over here. So my father says, "How much does it cost you?" My father said, "How much does it cost your parents to go for looking for yourself? How much does it cost your parents if you don't? And did you find yourself?" Well, I just couldn't believe this Lashon. He couldn't stop. I said, "He's fine." He keeps on saying, "Finds it." He has to find himself. He is finding himself. He's looking for himself. He found himself. He didn't find himself. His parents spend money for him to go to India to go look for himself, and he's sitting over here in Far Rockaway. But this is what it is. And he found himself, and they find themselves. Hopefully, all these kids on the campus, they're going to find themselves not getting jobs. If it works out, they'll find themselves without jobs, because you know what? The Jews are the ones that are giving the jobs out. So let's see what happens if we get some of the shmatas off their faces. And take a little peek of who these idiots are. Then they're going to have to go to get a job someplace in Alabama. They're not going to be able to live in Manhattan. The Jews are giving out the jobs. This is the Messias that we're living in. You're not allowed to talk about this. Probably I said things that are not politically correct. Huh?
We'll delete it.
No, you don't have to delete it. He says, so Vemes Eilish Neshla Vimashlavin is Taratzmi, who says that Derkes Shlava Golech Hitzelos Galos, had Chifa Prims Moedes al Ha'oitzish and Nimse Bamakim Mavakish Los Galos. The first shlav is the feeling that I have inside of me a great oitzer, a great treasure. I have something great inside of me. Something great and noble and beautiful inside of me. And I want to be able, that's the true search for the self, to be able to answer Hashem's question, Ayaka. That's the first shlav. So therefore everything has to begin with that nekuda of Har Sinai, of this place of Hashras Hashchina, not Mitzrayim, and not being freed from Mitzrayim. The shorish of it is Har Sinai. This is what we're talking about. So this is like a person who's driving around the world, and he feels that he hasn't found himself. And because of this, he's going all over the world looking for himself. Why is it that he doesn't feel, in all of these places that he's been, How come he doesn't feel that this is it? How come he feels this constant restlessness, and he keeps on going all over to look for himself? How come he doesn't feel that it's here? The answer is that there's an neshama that's inside of him, the deepest part of who he is, shemishaderis lo, that's broadcasting to him, that this is not his place. It doesn't have to do with a physical place, but this is not, you're running, looking to find yourself. It's not about a physical place. It's yourself. Yourself is your neshama. But you think that your neshama is in India. You think that your neshama is someplace, but your neshama is inside of you. And that's really what my father was saying, is you're right here. Why have to go looking someplace for yourself? You're right here. You are right here. That's your neshama. That's the Har Sinai. So everybody's going all over the place. They don't know what their makam is. But every time he comes to a new place and he thinks this is it, and he realizes, no, this is not it. This is not my place. Because until you come to that place of that nakuda, I mean for a yid, of tavdunis l'kim l'harazer, until you come back. So b'hatziachas av Mitzrayim, Hashem took get him Mitzrayim. You're free. Go anywhere you like. You have your parents' credit card. Travel anywhere you like. Unlimited travel. Go wherever you like. So you're not Mitzrayim. You're not Mitzrayim. You left Mitzrayim. You left mommy and daddy. You have a credit card. Unlimited. Go travel wherever you like. So why is he not happy with all the? He's out of Mitzrayim. He said goodbye to his parents. He's traveling all over the world. That's what he always wanted to do. And he's not home. He hasn't found his place. All he's discovered after going all around the world is that India is not his place. Peru is not his place. London is not his place. That's all he's found out, is that all these places are not his place. But he hasn't solved the issue, the problem of that emptiness, of that restlessness. The move on zeh, and in this respect, Chayrus really begins with understanding what is not the source of Chayrus, what's not going to give you that feeling of freedom, what's not going to allow you to answer the question of Hayaka. That's the beginning of Chayrus. Like the famous thing from the Badishva when he said of a marshal that he was lost in the forest for a whole day. And he was dragging around, he didn't know how to get out of this forest. He was so excited, he met a Yid. And the Badishva said to this Yid, my friend, could you help me? I'm lost here. The whole day I'm dragging around the forest, I don't know. So the other guy says, you're for a day, I'm here for a week. I'm here for a day. So the man says to the Badishva, but this is in the story Badishva told, he says, I can't, Rabbi, I can't tell you how to get out of the forest, but I could tell you that the ways that I've tried are not the way out. So we could rule out a lot of possibilities. The way you think it's the way out, it's not the way out. And the first thing that the person has to understand is that thinking that you're going to find yourself by being in this place or with that person is a huge mistake, and it's going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you your whole life, because that's not where you're going to find Chayrus. Chayrus is never ever going to be found outside yourself. Ask all the people who fell in love and stood under the chuppah believing that here is my final redemption, and ask them 30 years later about their redemption. It's not to be found outside. And you're depending upon your wife to give you that. You're depending upon your husband to give you that. You're depending upon the city that you live in to give you that. You're depending upon your money to give you that. All of these things never, ever did it. So you have to first, the beginning of Chayrus is to know what's not Chayrus. Because then you save yourself years and years and years of looking in the wrong place. Ma lo. Ubetnuai sachipus yovo adam el asagas atzma. V'yedem ahukein. Then you'll be able to discern. When you know what you're looking for, you'll know when you find it. Echel mimarahas now. So beginning from the Hisgalus by the burning bush, Am Yisrael hischilu lahavin shem enim avadim. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go yet to have a shmuz with them, and this is early, but there was already that Hisgalus, that his noitzitzus through Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu is connected to every single Jew. So there is this noitzitzus, this awareness that be'etzem we're not slaves. The fact that we've been in slavery and these people have been beating us and forcing us to do all these things, that's not who we really are. We're not avadim. Ulam rak b'maimed hasinai is bar la'am Yisrael shir hakayma hamolishlam. But only when we came to Hasinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us who we really are. And even then, the Indian wasn't finished. The Indian wasn't. It's going on to this day. It's continuing. But by Har Sinai, there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us, oh, this is what you're looking for. This is what you're looking for. You're looking for this person. You're looking for this life. You're looking for this way. But we're still having problems being convinced. But we saw something very remarkable there, something amazing that we saw at Har Sinai, and ever since then, enough was done that we're not satisfied without it. So Jews are always crashing and complaining and not happy and trying to find happiness in Hollywood or other, and being rich and other things. Jews are all kinds of ways that Jews, because ever since then, there's this recognition deep within the person that the only answer to that question of Hayeka is to be found by Har Sinai with the Torah. I can't find it in all these other places. So Jews are the most restless, wandering people, and struggle for because we already know deep inside that it's not. This is not it. It's not it. Like Rav Nachman's story with the wine. Hungarian wine. I'm sure you know the story about the fellow that was all not telling a whole mice, but he tasted it was the schlepper, but he got a taste of this Hungarian wine. The Hungarians always made the best wine, and it was the taste of the Hungarian wine, and the rest of his life he's going from one place to another, and he's tasting. They say this is the best wine. He goes to another. They give him the drink. He says, it's nice, but it's not it. It's not it. And Rabbi Nachman said to the Chassidim that before he died, he said that I already have shown you enough that you're not going to let the world fool you. Rabbi Nachman said, the journey is not done, but already enough I gave you that you're not going to let the world fool you with some phony imitation of Hungarian wine, which is what all these things are, imitations of Hungarian wine. The truth is the Hungarian wine. That's the Moshe. That's Har Sinai. That's the Torah. That's Yiddishkeit. That's Torah Mitzvahs. Rabbi Nachman said, listen, you might not all be the tzaddikim that I wanted you to be, but at least this much is that because of what I've been talking to you about and what we've been learning together, at least you've come to a point where you're not going to be such a fool to think that imitation wine is the real Hungarian wine. At least you'll know that it's an imitation. That's already something, Midragi, to know this is an imitation. To be able to laugh at yourself, which is why Jews are funny. The best comedians in all the funny shows were, not all, but almost all of them, were Jews. Because Jews have this feeling that this is Gelechte. This is a joke. The world is a joke. All these things that you're supposed to take so seriously, it's a joke. That's why Jews are funny. Jews know how to make jokes because they understand something happened to us at Har Sinai, and we were zapped, and something happened to us at Har Sinai, and ever since then, all the other things that the whole world gets all hitched about, like this is it, this is a tachlis, inside we know it's not a tachlis, so we make jokes about it. Therefore we joke about everything. The Jews are the funniest people. Because we know that the whole thing's a gelech. It's a joke. And the funniest thing is that how people take the joke so seriously. They take the and Jews are all laughing. They make jokes and they make fun, and the rest of the world get all worked up about everything, and the Jews make a joke about it. And I think everybody is masking that the Jews have produced the funniest people. the comedians. I mean, in modern times, I don't know what comedy was like back in the old days, but in modern times, that's how it is. Let's just finish the. She says, "Echel mimaras na am Yisrael hischilu lahavin shem einam avodim ulam rak b'maradesina his bar lami so she akrem hamalishla." He says, "She seder adam," like the Maral calls it, seder ha'adam, the seder of life, and the tachlis, a purpose of what you're living for, why you're living, what's the point of being alive." Just so that's take a look there. 10 Commandments. That's something to work with. You have material to work with. 10 Commandments. They took away from the world the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments is something the whole world can work for that. That was also taken away. Without Hasinai, without Torah, a person can't come to true chayrus. Shian nemonis latzmius. So chayrus means being faithful to your atzmius, who you are. Because only through Torah can one's entire being come out completely in all layers, levels. That the writing of Hashem is engraved on the luchos. Chorus, everybody knows this drasha. Chorus, don't call it chorus, which means engraved. But the Torah is engraved in the essence of a Jew. Therefore, you can't find any chayrus without believing in the words that are chorus, without the engraving of the luchos, without not only the 10 Commandments, but all of Torah Shabbat, Torah Shabbat. Only when a person believes in that which is chorus, that which is engraved deep within him, can he come to that chayrus, can he come to being free. There was one of the Chavos sent me a little video of some meeting in the Knesset of an Israeli woman. I'm not sure. I don't know who she is, but it appeared to be that she was secular, but it could be she's not. And she was screaming and crying about how they're taking Tanakh out of the schools. It used to be in Eretz in all the secular schools, all the Mamachti schools in Eretz, one of the most basic and important parts of the day was the class that they had in Tanakh, and they were taught Tanakh as being the work of Hashem. That's how they were in all the secular schools for all the years until recently. Tanakh was a very basic part of their education, and okay, there were teachers that were able to sneak in their apikosis, but for the most part, the official stance, if you look at it was on the Bagrut. I don't know what we call it, matriculation, the test. That it was a big thing was Tanakh, and every Israeli grew up years ago knowing Tanakh very well. And not only that, but being taught Tanakh is something which is true, and Tanakh is the shurish of the history of Am Yisrael. Therefore, Jews are proud people who fight for their existence. And now you're trying to have good soldiers, and you're not teaching them Tanakh. It doesn't work for us. You can't produce strong Jewish soldiers who believe in Eretz Yisrael, who believe in Am Yisrael, if they don't believe in Tanakh. So they don't know what to do. So you're trying to get rid of Tanakh, but you want to bring up people to be proud of being Jewish, or proud of being Israelis, not Jewish, and to fight for Israel. So the guy said, "What do I have to fight for Israel? I can go to Brooklyn. To fight for a parking spot. I don't have to fight to live over here. I'll go to Avenue J. I'll fight for a parking spot. I'll go someplace else. I'll go to Florida. There, you can get a parking spot. Yes. You don't have to fight for a parking spot. So I have to go into Gaza to fight for what? Because you took Tanakh away from them. So they don't know who they are. You took the Torah. You took Hasinai away from them. These boys don't know who they are. So then what are you fighting for? So some idea, the idea of a secular idea of Zionism. So what? So the Irish have to stay in Ireland, and the Swiss have to stay in Switzerland. So I have to stay here for, and I have to die for this whole thing. And if you see the boys that they're secular, and that they're fighting for it, it's because they're not really secular. And we found that already, because there have been already 18,000 guys have already committed themselves. From what I was told, 18,000 guys have already committed themselves to putting on tefillin every day. That doesn't sound secular to me. They're not really secular. Because they have inside of them that piece of Hasinai. They're not really secular. They're upset. How come my parents never told me about that? They're not really secular. But what am I fighting for? What am I dying for? So they took Tanakh away from them. Some sort of a nationalism. So what does that mean? Why should I die for that? People have done that. Jews are too smart for that. Jews are too smart. Very, very smart people. They don't stand die for nothing. If a Jew's going to die, he's going to die for something. He doesn't die for nothing. He's not going to die fighting for the free rights of dogs or something. People do that. People, for the whales, yeah. Whale. You're never going to meet one. A dog, at least you see. A whale, have no shaykhs. When you have a shaykhs to a whale. Unless you go on some trip and they show you, everybody stands there, all the guys stand for 6 hours, then maybe there's going to see something spritzing from a whale. And everybody saw a whale, so here's the fight. So this guy's dying for whales. Would a whale ever die for him? The whole thing is crazy. But this is how people are crazy. People are mamish made crazy like this. But a Jew's too smart for that. Jews don't die for something, Stam. I'm gonna die for something. It has to be Tanakh. I'll die for Tanakh. I'll die for Hashem. I'll die for the Jewish people. I'm not dying for some stupidity. You see, with the rest of the world, you could sell stupidities, and people are marching and spending money. A Jew's going to take out of his pocket $10,000 for a whale. You have to be crazy. For a fish, it's not a fish, it's a mammal, Christ. Insult the whales because then they come after me. So you're gonna fight for that? Jews are too smart for that. They fight for Hashem, they fight for Tanakh. You can't take Tanakh away from Jews. That's really late, just 1 second, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, Rebbe, that the trekkers that you were talking about, the world travelers, seekers, the one thing they do find out, like you always say, is they take themselves with them wherever they go.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's why they can't find happiness. They can't let go of that. So it's on the other hand, it's a way that they eventually, hopefully one day will be able to find themselves, because wherever you go, you take yourself with you. That's the truth. Okay, I wish I would left the
The word Sinai have